she really wants to bring attention to people who are wrong. Because sometimes people are wrong. Like, look at the Fairbanks 4. Some people are wrongfully convicted, and then they get out, and the state's like, whatever.
And you're
just
like,
go back to a normal life.
I've been here for 20 years. I don't know anyone now. All my family's dead. They've all moved away, and people think shittily of me.
Especially in this time period, you think, like, okay, this is a weird example, but when I was in high school, the Razor was the big phone. Mm-hmm. Think of someone who got arrested the year the Razor was big, and now they're just getting out. Now we're on iPhone 11. Like, that's just a phone.
That's a good point.
Think about technology. Everything changes so much.
Yeah. How do you re-immerse yourself into a society that's completely different than the one you left?
Right. I mean, even people who weren't wrongfully convicted need more help coming out. But if you're wrongfully convicted, you should fucking get everything under the sun. Like, I'm sorry. That's my opinion, but...
Everyone should get more help. Those people should get way more because they didn't do anything to deserve the punishment.
Especially when the investigation was flawed.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, there was legit evidence
just like, you
that
look
maybe...
like him.
Yeah, there was like actual evidence, like someone else confessed. At least you have to allow that in trial.
And their hairs were different. Like, there was obvious evidence against the fact he was guilty.
But they leaned on her. Again, I don't blame her, but...
No, but I blame the way it was handled, because it's not...
Yeah, this case, like, haunts me. And I'm going to read the book now. Part of me was like, oh, I shouldn't choose a case from someone who I personally know. But then the more I looked into this case, I was like, I can't not choose this.
Yeah,
And Becca is really passionate about this case, too. She's talked about, like, she's read the book. She just...
Yeah, she's talked about it a couple times.
So thank you, Becca.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for fixing our hair on top of giving us stories to talk about.
And thank you, Sue. We don't know you personally, but great suggestion. And we love you, too.
We love all of you.
I know. Well, those were interesting stories. I feel like they weren't ones we would have picked if they weren't suggestions.
Yeah.
Just because how would I ever come across that?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
If you guys have more suggestions, you can send them to us on Instagram at luminolpod. That's the place you can most easily get into contact with us. But also we have an email address, luminolpod@gmail.com. You can also send them there. We pull from both. Mm-hmm. I did want to say, last night I watched a new 2020 special on ABC that interviewed the girlfriend of Ted Bundy. It was 2 hours long, Liz, and her daughter. And they just shared pictures and stories of when they lived with Ted Bundy. I know that the true crime community is a little, like, saturated with Ted Bundy, where it's a little bit like, can we talk about someone else, please? But I will say the information, I've watched the Ted Bundy tapes, I've watched a lot of the different documentaries. I know about the case, blah, 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 blah. There was some stuff in there that I didn't really know. So, and it was nice to hear it from the victim. Mm-hmm. Well, she actually, wrong. She's not, she's, I guess,
she's a victim in a different way.
Yeah.
She is a victim, but in a different way.
It's not, she wasn't assaulted or anything like that by Ted Bundy as far as she has
But she was tricked. Like, she was one of his victims for sure.
And listening to everything from her point of view was fascinating.
I have to watch this.
She said that the reason she's never done an interview with anyone before, the reason she's doing it now, or the reason she never did it before, was because she didn't want Ted Bundy to get more light than he deserved. And she didn't want to bring his name up again, which is so honorable. And I think she's allowed to talk about him however much she wants, because she had to be a part of his life. But yeah, she comes at it from a really interesting angle where she's like, no, I loved him. No, I didn't think anything was bad. No, he was a great
I think about that a lot. And I'm torn because I will say, me personally, I understand the argument that we shouldn't talk about these murderers because we're giving them the quote-unquote fame that they want. Yeah. But my argument and my belief is we, as a society, gain a lot from studying these people. Like, I don't want to give him fame, but, okay, like, let's say, like, women, like, take the 70s or the 80s, 60s, like, years ago, right? Hitchhiking was way more common, talking to strangers. Like, if we don't study these people, we don't know those things. Like, and as a woman, I know how, I'm not saying men are the only serial killers, but if I know, okay, he would pretend to have a broken arm and he would do this.
Sure.
I know to be much more aware of my surroundings. I wouldn't trust random. If some guy and maybe he could be a nice guy, but if some guy approached me and he's like, hey, I can't lift this into my truck or my van, could you get in and, like, help me? I'd be like, no thanks, not to be mean, but, like, I think,
or even to be like, there's a guy over there that looks much more capable than me.
Yeah,
like,
and comparing it to Mindhunter, like, we can catch new ones by studying old ones.
Yeah.
Like, I also think we need to talk about the victims, but at the same time, the victims deserve a chance to move on, and us not talk about them over and over. Like,
yeah, that's true too.
I don't know.
I'm also torn. And it's like my husband last night, he saw that I was watching that, and I was watching at the same time Becca was, 'cause she's the one who told me about it, the gal we were just talking about. And Evan...
Wait, Becca, why didn't you tell me about this?
Because I had a hair appointment with her yesterday, so I saw her.
So, I have a phone, she has a phone. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm really cool, so...
I'm just kidding.
Evan was like, why is everyone... Because my husband is not into true crime at all. And so he said, why is everyone obsessed with Ted Bundy? And I said, well, because he's a serial killer that's not really like other serial killers. And he was like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, what do I mean by that? But it's true. Despite what you feel about his attractiveness level, like, he was much more charming than most serial killers.
He was, quote unquote, seen as attractive, especially for that time.
Well, he had so much, like,
charisma and energy and...
Yeah, and he was confident. And most serial killers, now, you can quote me if I'm wrong, but most serial killers are a little bit more socially awkward, or people are like, oh yeah, that guy was a little weird. I got a weird feeling from him. Nobody got a weird feeling from Ted Bundy.
Well, there's a lot of... It could be argued, like, most are loners. They're not married. They're not in stable relationships. Or they are, but then when they get caught, like Gacy, you find out that it wasn't all roses.
Or they're unkind to their loved ones.
Or Ted Bundy legitimately was the ideal boyfriend, the ideal...
People were like, Liz's parents were like, oh my god, he's like a catch. He is Prince Charming.
He was charismatic. He was all these things, whether he's physically attractive or not, all those things made him attractive. And
he attracted people to him.
Yeah.
And so it's a truly weird case, and also he just talked people into things, and he
deceived people even after being arrested.
Yeah,
like, he was deceiving
multiple
people
times, and
people still didn't think he was innocent. It's crazy.
Yeah, so it's a different case than others. But anyways, the 2020 special you can find out on the ABC app if you have, like, Fire Stick.
Oh, so I wonder if it's on Hulu.
Maybe.
Okay,
yeah, I found it with my Fire Stick by going into the app with my Amazon Fire Stick. But yeah, there are other ways you can access it. And then the other thing that I watched was really interesting was Miss Americana.
Oh, you get to talk about both things?
Yeah, because I felt like you wanted to talk about it.
Oh, so you're going to...
Yeah, I opened that little door for Caitlin. See, I'm opening the door for Caitlin. Because she rolls.
Last night I went to Twin Christie's and we watched Miss Americana, which is a Taylor Swift documentary.
I watched it this morning.
I liked it.
I was not sure how I'd feel about it because I've always felt... I like some of Taylor Swift's songs. I don't like all of them. I've always felt like maybe she's trying to impress people, but it's funny because she absolutely is. There's so much sincerity to it.
Well, so there's a scene where, and I couldn't agree with this more personally. This is how, there's this weird thing that I've always felt, and you might even be able to call it selfish. I don't know what it is, but Taylor, the way she described it hit the nail on the head for me. I've always had this weird, like, I will admit, I like people to like me. I don't like being disliked. Not in the sense that I, like, want to change who I am, but I really like to be seen as a good person. And so I try really hard to be a good person. Like, I try to be nice. I try to be understanding.
And that was Taylor's whole shtick.
Yeah. And it's hard to explain, and maybe people who don't, because there are some people who are like, I don't give a fuck if you like me, and I respect that too.
But it's not you.
Yeah, and I don't care that people like me in a sense that, like, some weird desire to be liked. It's more like, I don't want to be a bad person, so if you don't like me, what did I do wrong to make you not like me? Like, I want to be a good person. Does that make sense? Like, I want to be a good person.
Yeah.
And so when people, like, I do understand, I've learned as I got older, not everyone's going to like me. And some people, it doesn't matter how nice you are. They might hate you because you're nice. Like, but I don't like disappointing people. I don't like making people upset. If someone's mad at me, I need to talk about it, like, I don't know. So I identify with her a lot on that. It's just insane that, like, she talked about this a lot, like, the sexual assault case she had to testify at, and different things, like when Kanye West went on stage, like, all these things she's been through.
She was 17 when that happened.
Yeah. She was just devastated. You can, like, she's this girl, teenager trying to make it, and this grown man steals the microphone from you when you get your first award, and he was basically like, fuck you, Beyonce's better.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what he said, but...
That's what he implied.
Yeah. And her song, The Man, And, like, okay, so they show all these clips, and I remember when this was big, but it was like, I'm sorry, when you're between the ages of, like, 16 and even into your 30s, it doesn't matter what age you are, both men and women, you date. That's how you meet the right person. Like, I've gone on multiple dates in 1 week with different person, like, being too. Online date. Like, that's...
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but she was not left alone. It was, oh, who's Taylor Swift dating now? Mm-hmm. She's dated everyone in Hollywood. But then, like, Leonardo DiCaprio has a different woman on his arm every week. Mm-hmm. No one gives a shit. So why, because she's a woman, people care? Like, if they looked at my dating life, they'd be like, Jesus, she's a slut. Which, like...
Which you're not, because that word doesn't exist.
Yeah, but it's just... Going on a date doesn't mean anything.
I got a couple things from it. One, I think that Taylor Swift, every girl can find something to relate to. Mm-hmm. And if you don't feel that way, that's absolutely fine. You don't have to. But that's how I feel. And definitely watch the documentary. Whether it's her dating life, her personal life, her mom's battle with cancer, her whatever. Like, you can find a piece to glom onto. So that's what makes her storytelling so good. Mm-hmm. The other thing is that she brings up sexism a lot in this documentary, which is fascinating to me because she's not wrong. Mm-hmm. In the end, she says something, which is like, women are shiny and sparkly when they're new, and after 2 years, they have to reinvent themselves every single time they show up. Mm-hmm. And that really stuck with me, and the fact that she grinds so much. Like, she has friends, but, like, she's so isolated.
So the other thing that fascinated me, and that this will always fascinate me about her, is she really is the whole package in the sense that, like, Christy and I were talking about this last night. Mm-hmm. It's really amazing that she thinks about her fans and everything she does to where she drops clues in a music video for the next song. She drops clues in one song for the next. And watching her, like, there was that scene where she was talking to Brendan from Panic at the Disco, and all of her music videos are her idea. Like, she does it all. So she's, like, just sitting there and she goes, oh, I have the idea for the music video. We'll do this, 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 and this. And I've seen that music video, and all the things she said were in the video.
She's like, this will be my part and this will be your part. And
she's a creative genius.
Yeah,
like,
she is.
She thinks of everything. Like, she really is a creative genius. Her songwriting skills, I don't know.
Yeah. No,
I have a super girl crush on Taylor Swift.
So this is the one thing I couldn't think of. She cares so much, and also the fact that she's isolated. So she was painting her friend's nails, and he said, oh, how did you learn to do this? And she said, well, I can't go into public, so...
Yeah, she hid from the public for a year, and she thought that's what people wanted. It's just...
But anyways, I would highly recommend it. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily, like, the biggest Taylor Swift fan, but after watching it, I have a lot of respect for her because I see, like, I don't know, a lot of myself in her struggles.
Yeah.
The fact that she just, like, has all this grit that she won't
worked
stop.
Hard.
Yeah.
And
I'm like,
her.
You know what? I want to have that kind of grit where I don't stop.
Yeah. I adore her. And she is through and through a woman's woman.
Yeah.
She's not, like, a guy's girl making excuses. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she is, like, a woman for women.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah.
I want to be more of a woman's woman.
I do too. I read something, and I'm not, well, despite your religion, I'm not religious in a sense of one deity, or multiple deities. But I read something that was like, start a 30-day prayer challenge. Pray for the best for one single person for 30 days straight and don't even tell them. And pray for that same person for the 30 days. I was like, you know what? I'm more of like a manifesting person or like sending good like thoughts and feelings to people. I'm like, I should do that. Pick one person for 30 days, like really try to like cultivate something for them.
I do a really weird thing that I don't even want to admit, but I read once that... This is going to sound really stupid. This is really stupid. You know when you wash your hands in a public bathroom? Mm-hmm. I read one time that you're supposed to sing happy birthday to yourself twice, and that's how long you're supposed to wash your hands. So I have this weird thing. Whenever I'm washing my hands in public, I try to sing happy birthday twice, but I always make it a point to say a different name. Like I'm really saying happy birthday to someone. I do it every time.
That is the cutest thing I've ever heard.
I've never told anyone that. But I'm always like singing it in my head. And then sometimes I panic because I can't think of a name. And I'm like a name just pops into my head. And I do that every time I wash my hands at the public bathroom. I sing happy birthday to different people.
That is the cutest thing in the world.
I'm really embarrassed.
Have you ever said happy birthday to me?
Probably. I'm sure Sarah's... If I know it's someone's actual birthday, too, then I get more excited when I'm watching it.
Well, get ready, because mine's on President's Day.
Okay.
That's sweet.
I'm embarrassed to say that.
No, let's do dad jokes.
Okay.
So what has two butts and kills people?